day at the 157th Ripley-Huron Fall Fair, and now it is time for the Keepers. I'm just going to go off my notes here. The Keepers is a dedicated duo who travel Canada rescuing animals. Today you're going to see a whole host of unique and special critters, including Felix and Fiona the foxes, Chester the coatimundi, Everest the ostrich, and much, much more, including a segment on how to feed your pet snake. The Keepers have their own children's book, which is available by visiting their website, www.meetthekeeper.com. So here we go. Get ready to get wild. Here come the Keepers.
Hi, I'm Jenny the Keeper.
And I'm Kyle the Keeper.
And we are the Keepers. We run a wildlife rescue center where we make sure all our animals get socialized, proper diets, and vet care.
We've dedicated our lives to making a difference by saving animals and educating the public on the importance of wildlife conservation and responsible pet ownership.
We travel the country helping all animals, from the cute and fluffy to the creepy crawly.
We've rehabilitated and re-released hundreds of animals back into their natural habitats where they belong.
Everything we do is so that the animals can have a better life.
Just like parents, we're not supposed to have favorites, but there's some you just can't help but fall in love with. My favorite rescue has to be Chester the coatimundi. I've built such a connection with her, and because she was such a severe case of neglect, she required months of vet care and socialization. But now, here she is.
Another incredible rescue was Fiona. Fiona's a marble fox, half red fox, half Arctic fox. We rescued her when she was only 2 weeks old. We have to bottle feed her around the clock, become her parents, and bring her back to health. Here she is, 2 years later, happy and healthy.
We love events where people can get up close and personal with the animals, where we help educate them about conservation and care.
We strongly believe that wild animals should be left in the wild. Providing both kids and adults with knowledge and awareness will help protect pets and wildlife from ending up in need of a rescue in the first place.
It is such a great feeling to know that what we do every single day makes such a positive difference.
Join us on social media for details on how to visit our Wildlife Rescue Center, keep up to date on our newest rescues, find info on upcoming events, and how you can help out the animals. Thank you.
climb every mountain and swim every ocean just to be with you.
Hi guys, Jenny the Keeper. We'll let everybody log in first. Give everybody a chance to join in. You guys might see Bonsai in the back here. She's just hanging out in her tree. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Let me go get a stool. It's going to be easier to talk to you guys. Give me 1 second. Alright. So, how is everyone doing? Hope everybody's having a great weekend. Got a few people logging in. Perfect. We're going to be talking about snakes today, so I know my friend Bonsai and who else is down here? We have Bucky, who's in his water bowl down there, which you guys cannot see right now, and we have Bonsai right behind my shoulder. I'll be letting you guys see everything up close afterwards. Perfect. Alright, we'll give everybody about 30 seconds to join in, and then we'll get started on this snake talk. What have you guys been doing all weekend? Eeyore just wants to be part of everything. Alright. We are doing good, thanks for asking. We have been keeping very, very busy. Always lots going on at the Wildlife Rescue Center. But things are good considering everything that's going on in the world right now. Can't complain. Thank you. This is my go-to hairdo almost every day. Alright, so we're going to be talking about snakes and feedings. This, like we said last night on our post, is not something that we talk about very often because we do take into consideration that not everybody enjoys watching snakes being fed. Like we explained, we don't feed anything live here except crickets or worms. Apart from that, everything else is frozen thawed when it comes to snake feedings. I have a couple snakes looking at me on the other side too. So in this room right now, we're just in our large snake room. So we do have Bonsai, which is our red-tailed boa. We have Bucky, our carpet python. And then to my left, we have a Kenyan sand boa. So, pretty bird. Thank you, my girl. So, in this room, we do have a few of our snakes. We have our arboreal enclosures, which is amazing. It was donated to us, and we adore these enclosures. But we did feed some of our snakes earlier. We will not be feeding anything on the live right now, but I will be posting a quick video afterwards. So if you guys have the heart to actually watch a snake being fed, you are more than welcome to click on that link, but nobody will be forced to see anything they don't want to see. Always keeping everybody in consideration. Now, with that being said, doesn't mean you will not be seeing some frozen animals that we typically do feed, because I will be talking about that. So if you guys are uncomfortable or have a weak stomach when it comes to seeing either deceased or frozen animals, feel free to leave the live. We will not take it personally. This is an informative live, but we do respect everybody's opinions on this. Alright, we have a few people coming in. Perfect. So, we do feed our snakes, depending on their size and depending on their feeding habits, different times. So many domestic snakes are overfed. We do see a lot of fat or obese snakes coming in, which sounds a bit crazy. But in captivity, we tend to overfeed our snakes quite a bit. So, at the Wildlife Rescue Center, our small snakes tend to eat every 2 weeks. Our largest snakes tend to eat every 3 to 4 months. This also is based on the size of the prey that we do feed. Our largest snakes will eat anything from a 4-pound rabbit to 20-pound animals, such as pigs or rabbits or chickens or turkeys. So, and when we talk about those larger prey, we are talking about Reese Slitherspoon, which is our 14, almost 16-foot reticulated python. Now, our smaller guys will eat anything from pinky mice, which is almost newborn mice, to extra large rats. Now, these rats will come in a bag, that we do purchase. They are frozen. Again, nothing alive. Pretty bird, hey, my girl, you're being loud. Thank you. So, animals come in like this. They are frozen. They are not alive. We do put them in warm water for a few hours until they are thawed. And after that, we will simply take a hemostat, which is a... I'm being stalked by snakes. We will take a long hemostat, which is just an instrument to keep the animals away from our fingers. Because if we were to put our whole hand holding a snake in an enclosure, chances are that our hands will be in the line of fire, which is not the goal. So we will take a hemostat, clamp the tail of the animal, simply put it in the enclosure and keep our hands at a distance, which is just a safety precaution. Now, most of these animals, when it comes to snakes, are very intelligent in some ways and are very, very bubbleheads in others. So, Pretty Bird! Pretty Bird is being very loud because I'm upstairs for once doing a live. So, whenever we talk about snakes, let me see if Bonsai wants to come talk to me. Bonsai is right there. I don't know if you guys can see her. She's starting to come down. Hey, Bons. You want to come out? We'll see. Now, before ever touching or picking up an animal, a snake, we always touch their heads because snakes are legally blind. So, if she doesn't go after, wanna come out? She is up in her tree. Wanna come out? No? She's all twangled. Look, I'll switch this around. It's gonna be a lot easier. Give me just a moment. There it is. Alright, so Bonsai's right in here. Bonsai's a red-tailed boa. And let me shut this door so it's a little bit less loud. So Bonsai's a red-tailed boa. Bucky is just in his water because he is about to shed, so he's a lot less active right now. But Bonsai here, who just shedded, if you guys can see, there is dead skin. This is a good thing, so whenever a snake sheds, it means they are growing, which is a good thing for Bonsai because she did come to us in really, really bad shape and quite a few wounds all over her body, so sometimes they do get stunted when this happens, so shed is a good thing. Now, I'm going to let that fall for now. When it comes to feeding a snake, the best way to know what size prey to feed an animal is to look at the largest part of their body. So, if you look at Bonsai, this is one of the largest parts of her body. So she could eat a meal that is 3 times the size of the largest part of her body. So she could actually eat a small chicken. Now, we see Peyton giving a lot of likes. Now, oh, there she is. She's peeking back. Now, Bonsai is still in feeding mode right now because we did feed her earlier. So she's still a bit hungry because she hasn't digested all her food yet. But she did get 2 extra large rats, which is a good sized meal for her. She could get 1 large prey or multiple smaller ones. Now, in the wild, they will only eat what they need in energy, which is not a lot. So whenever people arrive and say, oh, I'm feeding my snake every single week, it is not a good idea. Now, she's just going to possibly strike, so we're just going to tilt this back a little bit. So, snakes in the wild will only eat when they need energy or when they are hungry. In captivity, we tend to put them on schedules, which is very, very unnatural for many of them. So if you don't know much about snakes, it's always a good idea to do your research before purchasing or getting involved with any of these animals, because most of them actually can live 40 to 60 years. Alright, Bonsai here is only about 9. Bucky down there is 12. Bucky is just a bit bigger than Bonsai, but he is also a male, so he is almost full grown. Alright, now, I'm going to close this one back up, and we're going to move on to our Kenyan sand boa. So you'll see very, very different environment because this animal here lives under the sand, so there's not much going on at the top of his enclosure because he's usually under the sand. Now, is it smart for me to go put my hand directly in the sand right now after he was just fed? No, but typically we know his hiding spots, and there he is. He's hiding in one of his little hides. Now, this is a Kenyan sand boa. See if I can get him out of there. He likes to just hang out in there for some reason. There he is. Now this sand boa, looking at the largest part of his body, could easily eat a small rat. Now again, he is still in feeding mode, so we're not going to be bugging him too much right now. And if we look closely, he might actually go right under the sand for us if he goes in one of the deeper spots of the sand. See if he wants to go in. Now every One of our snakes has very different environments, different temperatures, different humidities. Every one of them has different sets of lights at the top. Some of them are UVB lights, which means they need natural sunlight to actually be healthy. Others just need a very strict humidity level, like our Bonsai next door, our red-tailed boa. This one being a very desert animal, he likes the dry heat, which is why he has a very strong heat bulb around or above him. And in some parts of his enclosure, he also has heat below him. But he does need a cool spot, which is why some of his enclosure is kept at a cooler temperature for him to cool down whenever necessary. So if we were to look at this little guy here, who we rescued in Newfoundland when we were out there, this animal here would be way too big. So if we look at the largest spot, look, he's going under the sand. You guys are getting a cool view of this. So if we were to put this at the largest part of his body, it is much too large. So he would need a small rat, unlike this large one. I don't know if we can see him. If I move some of his plants, you'll see him going under the sand, which is quite cool. These guys are amazing, spontaneous little guys. So whenever we're cleaning him out and he's actually under his sand, you gotta go filter through that sand to find him. But he's an amazing little animal, and the cool thing about Kenyan sandbow is that their tail is actually plated. I know my... Whoop, whoop, whoop. His tail and his head look exactly the same. And his tail is actually plated. So if we were to look... I'll let this guy go. If we were to look at his tail and his head, they are exactly the same, and his tail is actually plated. So if an animal was to go after his tail, he wouldn't be able to go through that very, very deep tissue. Alright, now we're going to let this guy go. He needs to digest his food. We don't want him regurgitating, which is another issue with snakes. If you bother them after they've eaten, they will actually regurgitate their food, which is quite a disgusting process, and it smells horrible. So we're going to let him be. We're going to let him relax, let him go digest his food, and we're going to move on to another animal. But let me just flip this back around here. So when it comes to snakes, often it just comes back to respecting the animal, letting them be when they need to be left alone, letting them digest their food, which can take up to a month depending on the size. Most of our snakes here, after they've eaten a rat this size, it will take them a good week and a half to digest it. Maybe a bit more when they eat multiple preys. Their system is a little bit slower at digesting food because they are cold-blooded. So the cooler their environment, the longer it takes them to digest. And another cool thing I wanted to talk about when it came to snakes, let me tell Pretty Bird to be calm. Hey, Pretty Bird! You're being very loud. I'm here, my girl. Come see me. Thank you. She's blowing kisses. So instead of, I don't know where I was going anymore. I don't know. I'm having a blah moment. So, I'm going to go off track. Oh, another cool thing I want to talk about, I remember, is the fact that a lot of people still believe that snakes will actually actively hunt humans. That is a myth. I'm going to close this door. It is a myth. Snakes do not actually hunt humans. There's only been a handful of cases in history of snakes eating humans, every single one of which were in certain parts of the world where very, very small children were involved, and they were all farmers, which means they smell like the snake's food, they had body heat, and they had movement, and they were small enough to be eaten. But in general, most snakes will go after a couple things. They go after smell. Humans typically don't smell like rats, chickens, and mice. They go after body heat, which we all have, and they go after the proper size. If I went up to a human and I said, hey, here's a watermelon, can you eat it in one whole bite? You automatically know that it's too big for you. Snakes have that ability to know right away if an animal is too big for them to ingest, or if it even makes sense for them to eat such a large prey. So if I was to go up to a snake and be like, here is a 60-pound pig, you can have it. Or here's 3 10-pound chickens. They'll go after the smaller prey because they are actually a lot less at risk of digesting the food and not being bothered if they eat smaller prey in comparison to if they were to eat larger prey. So, quite a few comments about my hair, thank you. So I hope this all makes sense, but another little myth that I want to address is the fact that snakes do not dislocate their jaw to eat large prey. So, humans have a bottom jaw and we have a top jaw. I did not wash my hands. I'm touching my face after touching dead rats. But we have a bottom jaw, we have a top jaw. Snakes have it a little bit differently. So their bottom jaw is actually split at their chin. So this piece can move side to side. They also have an extra bone between their bottom jaw and their top jaw. So humans can open their mouth, close it. This is how it works. Snakes have that extra bone in the back that allows them to open it up regularly or extra wide for larger prey. So that's why we say that they can eat a meal that is 3 times the size of the largest part of their body, because they have that extra bone to allow them to expand their mouth and open it extremely wide. Their skin stretches, their scales will stretch, but they are able to do so. They do not dislocate their jaw. That would not make much sense if an animal had to dislocate their jaw every single time they had to eat. That'd be quite painful and not very smart. But very, very common things that we often hear that don't make much sense. But definitely things that we need to know. These animals were all fed earlier. Like I said, if you guys want to see a video of my friend Bonsai back here eating, I will be posting it after this live. If you do not want to see an animal being fed, completely fine, skip the video. That's why I'm giving everybody a fair warning. If you do want to see it, click on it, share it. Glad you guys can learn something with everything that we do here. Perfect. If you guys have any questions, I always give everybody about a minute to ask any questions since there's a delay in comments and us receiving them. Kyle's just at home taking care of Piglet and our Kevin Bacon, John Ham, Bella, and Nikki. So he's being very busy at home. He was supposed to be here, but we had a slight change of plans. But glad you guys could join us. They do use their jaws in 2 ways, so that's definitely cool. I didn't even know that until I started working with snakes about 10 years ago. I used to be terrified of snakes and spiders, now I work with both. But I definitely have found a love for snakes. They are amazing. There's so many different species and kinds, arboreal, terrestrial. They're amazing. There's even semi-aquatic snakes and full aquatic snakes. So there's definitely always things to learn about animals. We're still learning things every time we take on a new species that we haven't worked with. We love learning, so we like to share things with you guys, and that way you guys can have a better understanding of animals out there. So why do we not feed live? Good thing, I was supposed to address that. An animal in the wild, like I said, will only hunt or eat when they are hungry. In captivity, we are often forcing animals to eat often. More often than they should, which is why we see a lot of obese animals. People are laughing at me because I forgot the main subject of this live. That's okay. So when you feed a live prey and you put it in an enclosure, if the snake is not hungry, he will just go to a corner, curl up, go to sleep, and be left alone. Problem is, a mouse, a rat, is not only a prey, but it is also a predator to other animals. So if the prey, being the rat or the mice in this case, was to feel threatened, we have seen it very, very often that the mouse or the rat will turn around and start chewing, biting, and attacking the snakes. Snakes are not the brightest animals out there, and often they will just let it be. Bonsai behind me, that 7-foot red-tailed boa, came to us with 3 open spinal wounds because a rat had been left in her enclosure for a full weekend. So for a full 48 hours, this animal, or this rat, was actually chewing on her flesh and her muscles, and she couldn't do anything. She doesn't have arms, she doesn't have legs, so she was actually left with very severe wounds, which took quite a few months for us to heal, or for her to heal. So feeding live prey is not the best idea in captivity. So often we have seen in the last 4 years since the keepers started, we have seen at least 7 or 8 cases of animals coming in with bite wounds from rodents. So that's one reason. Second reason, it's stressful for both species. It's not only stressful for the prey being put in there, but it's also stressful for the animal that may or may not be hungry. It's an animal that is being forced into its environment without any knowledge of why or when it will be coming. So, number 2, third reason, main reason why we don't feed live, we don't have the hearts to do it. Putting a live animal that we have actually fostered and rescued, we've rescued rats, we've rescued mice, we have spiny quilled mice right now, or Egyptian spiny mice right now. Having the thought of taking a live animal and putting it in an enclosure and not looking and hearing its little screams, we couldn't do it. We just don't have the heart to do that, and because it's not necessary to do so when we can actually get frozen animals, we don't do it. Saving injuries, saving stress, or reducing stress, reducing possible injuries, and it's kind of inhumane to feed animals or live animals when it's not necessary. So we tend to take that direct route. It's just better for everybody involved. Some people will come in here, abandon or surrender animals, or when we receive animals that have only been fed live, we can transition them. A lot of people say, oh, we've only had snakes that could only eat live. It's false. I have never met a snake that we were not able to switch to frozen thawed. Alright, snakes go off 3 things: body heat, movement, and smell. This animal, dead or alive, once we warm it up in hot water, will smell like a rat. Once we move it with a hemostat in front of the snake, it's moving, it's got body heat, and it smells like their food. So snakes, being smart but not the smartest animals out there, they are legally blind, so they're mainly going off of a few things. They're going off of vibrations, smell, and movement. So they do see shadows moving in front of their faces. So whether the animal is live or whether we're shaking it in front of them, they will go for it. Alright, there is another process to entice animals that have been fed live in the past to eat frozen thawed, and that's actually kind of a disgusting process, but it does work. When you get a frozen thawed animal, you actually rip it open and you let them taste it, and they tend to go for it afterwards. So very, very different ways of going about it, but definitely feeding frozen thawed is the best way to do it in captivity. Let them do their own thing in the wild, let them go hunt when they're hungry, but in captivity, we're more in charge of their diets, and let's not risk their safety and their health. Any question, guys, before we leave this live? Because I do have to go feed all our rescues back there. I know the birds are calling for me. I'm just trying to go back and comment and see if I missed anybody. Any questions, comments, concerns? Many people have a fear of snakes, absolutely. Why do people have a fear of snakes? That's my question to you guys. There is actually a valid answer to that question. Why do you guys think we're so afraid of snakes? You can tell your son, who asked that? Sheila, if your son really wants a snake, you can tell him that it is a very, very long commitment. And most snakes don't show much expression when you come home from work. They're not very happy to see you. They don't like to play with you. They're kind of boring animals for most people, which is why most people rehome them very, very quickly. As far as how often do they eat, it really is based on the size of the animal, because the larger the meal, the less often they will eat. So our small guys who eat small mice will eat almost every week or two. Our larger guys can actually go up to 13 months without eating. So not that we do that, but it is a possibility. They do store fat as well. We do not have, so there's 80% of snakes in the world that are constrictors, which means they actually just hug their food goodbye. They're very nice about it. They squeeze until the heart fully stops. There is 15% of snakes in the world that are venomous, and the rest will eat live prey. Just like our garter snakes, they will eat live frogs and live prey, but most of them are constrictors, just like all the ones we have here right now. We have had a few venomous snakes come through our doors, but we do not have any currently. I'm just reading everybody's comments here. Is it normal that yours is active but not eating? Is your snake a male or female? Right now, many are breeding and many will have false clutches of eggs, which means during that period they do not eat. Some snakes simply don't eat because they're not hungry. So like I was explaining, if you feed too often, they will actually go through a phase where they don't want to eat for up to 12 months. Which is not unheard of. We've actually rescued quite a few ball pythons and boas that went almost 6 months without eating because they simply were overfed in the past. So maybe check what you're feeding, how often you're feeding, and if it's a male or a female. If it is not sexed, go see your vet, have it probed to figure out if it's a male or a female. Don't try and figure it out yourself. Some people like to actually push a certain way to figure it out. It is quite dangerous for them, can cause injuries. So I would check those few things first, and then you'll get more answers. Alright. How do we know if they're hungry? Like I said, whenever we pick up a snake, before we ever touch or pick up a snake, we'll take any kind of random accessory that we have around us, whether it's our hat, paper towel, a blanket. We always touch their head. Because they are legally blind and snakes don't have eyelids, you never know if they're sleeping, you never know if they're awake. So a good thing to do is just tap them on the head or just on their body to make sure they are aware of you being around them. Once you know that, usually if they are very hungry, they will actually strike at whatever comes to them. That's one way of knowing. Otherwise, their temperament kind of changes. They are a lot more alert. They'll start looking around, kind of start looking for food and search their environment. You kind of just tend to learn their personality. Every snake has their own personality as well. Some are just naturally feisty, and every time you walk by their enclosure or their window, they will actually start striking at the window. Others are just quite friendly, and they'll eat whenever you give them food, and otherwise they don't really care. So it really is a case by case in this story. They do hug their food goodbye. It's the best way of explaining it to kids. Because otherwise, if you explain that they strangle their prey until they can't breathe and their heart stops, it kind of sounds a bit harsh. When you say, you know what, snakes have to eat too, and they hug their food goodbye, so they're very nice about it, people don't tend to freak out as much. Madeleine, they do not creep on people because snakes like to stay away from humans in general. Most people who are afraid of snakes were actually bit by a snake because... Everybody's laughing at my previous explanation. I'm sorry, guys. Snakes like to stay away from people in general because we are the biggest predators on the planet. We cause the most harm, we hunt the most, we cause a lot more destruction in the wild and for wildlife in general. So most people who are afraid of snakes actually bothered a wild animal to get bit. So if you went in the wild, you saw a garter snake and you tried to scare your sister, you're going to start some fears that are not very necessary. So most people that say snakes will creep up on you or come lay down beside you and measure you before they eat you is completely false. The only time a snake will come and actually lay beside you is simply because they're cold and they're enjoying all the body heat that is in their natural environment. Snakes are cold-blooded. They love the warmth of our necks just to come snuggle, not strangle. They like the body heat of humans in general. If they are used to being handled by humans, they tend to come cuddle simply to steal our body heat, and it's a natural AC whenever you're in whenever you're walking around the wildlife center, whenever you're out and about and your snake is cold and you're really warm, you have it around your neck, they cool you off, they warm up. It's a good deal. Neil, it's a male, so maybe you are overfeeding, maybe your snake has mouth rot, maybe it has intestinal parasites. When's the last time it was seen by a vet? Whether you have a reptile, a parrot, a mammal, anything, they should be seen once a year by a vet. So if he's not eating and you are worried or he's losing weight, go see a vet. If you think that he has a good body condition and he's still active and drinking and sunbathing, give him time. That's my best advice. Some of them do like hot rocks, absolutely. Some prefer the hot sand. Some prefer going up high in trees to get the better humidity. It does depend on the species and where they're native to. Christina, our snakes poop about once every time they eat. So if we feed them every 2 weeks, they'll poop once. If you feed them once a month, they're going to poop once a month. So they poop once per meal. No more than that. And it either comes out in kind of like an egg white slime mixed with fur and all sorts of junk. So it's quite a bit different poop. Do your kids have any cool questions, Lynn? No shame in asking any kind of weird questions here. Nothing phases us anymore. Pretty bird is waiting for her meal. Alright, I'll give everybody a good 30 seconds to ask final questions, and then I'm going to head out and start feeding the whole Wildlife Rescue Center. And then hopefully Kyle is walking the dogs. I see that Kyle is looking right now. We're watching this live from home. Kyle, if you want to go walk the dogs, that won't be bad. Good question, Christina. So they do not actually pee or defecate. It actually all comes out of one area of their body. So if she wasn't all tangled in there, I'd show it to you. But they use one orifice
to defecate, urinate, and lay eggs. Everything comes out of the same spot. So there's no pure liquid coming out anywhere. It all comes out in one big gelatin-like substance. It's the best way I can explain it. Who is the newest resident of the Wildlife Rescue Center? Trying to think here. Either the kinkajou. We did welcome Pika, the kinkajou, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. We've also rescued the 5 tarantulas that just came in as well. They're currently still in our house right now. Quite a few of them were very, very dehydrated, and we're just trying to get them a little bit more stable before transferring them here, and they do have to go through quarantine as well, just to make sure they're not, their enclosures don't have any kind of mites or any kind of parasites. So we're just keeping them at home for now, but we will be introducing them, and we will be giving the results of the little game that we put online. So far, nobody has figured out the 5 species that we listed on there, but hopefully somebody will to win a keeper's sweater like this one and a keeper's book. So if you guys want a chance to win, go check out those pictures of all the tarantulas that we just rescued recently and get a chance to win. Thank you, Madeleine. So, with that being said, guys, I hope you guys learned something today. I hope you guys enjoyed our little snake talk. I'm going to go get these little guys thawed out and finish feeding everybody. If you guys want to see a snake being fed, I'm going to feed Bonsai. I did catch a little video of her eating earlier. So if you guys don't want to see an animal being fed, don't worry about it. Don't click on the link that I will be posting in the next 15 minutes. If you do, click on the video. It is a cool thing to see. I shouldn't be talking and reading comments at the same time. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed everything. I hope everybody has a good upcoming week. I'm going to go feed all these monsters that are chatting in the back. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. And talk to you guys soon. I'm Jenny the Keeper. Have a great weekend, guys.